NXT Roadblock took place tonight in New York City at the theater at Madison Square Garden. This is coming off last night's Raw show, which took place at Madison Square Garden, the arena. But tonight was in the smaller but more intimate theater venue at the Garden as well. And I have to mention the crowd right away. They were awesome tonight. They were into everything. They were super loud. They made the show a lot better. And it makes you really, in some ways, harken back to the older black and gold days, the good old days, when the crowds were crazy. And crowds are still really good, but they were at a different level tonight. So we all know Madison Square Garden's great. New York City's great. It's one of the best wrestling markets. But having them in more of an intimate setting in the theater, it really added to the show. We started off with Oba Femi, Moose, Stephanie Becker, Julia all arriving at the Garden. These are all our main participants in the two title matches tonight. And we started the show off with the TNA Tag Team titles being defended on NXT, in which we have our TNA Tag Team champions, the Hardy Boys, Matt Hardy and Jeff Hardy, defending against Fraxium, Nathan Frazier and Axiom, who happen to just be the NXT Tag Team champions and what most consider the best tag team in the world right now. I certainly believe so. So Frazier and Axiom came out. They got a good pop. The fans liked them. They weren't cheering for them, but they didn't hate them. Never booed them at all. Then the Hardys come out, and man, what a pop. These guys are super over. It's one of those situations, no matter what happens, how many times they leave the WWE, how long they're gone, how many times they get stale on the main roster, because let's be honest, their last main roster run as a tag team did not go very well. It got pretty boring at the end. For them to just return and get a huge pop, they're in a special category, man. They are so over, and they are always over. When I was a kid watching the Hardys, everyone loved Team Extreme. So just seeing them get that pop, it's always great. And the fans were electric for this match. They loved the Hardys. Everything they did got a huge pop. And you just know they're coming back to the WWE. So there were some good parts in the match, how it started. I actually liked how we had dueling TNA and NXT chants. And I appreciate it because the fans never really hated TNA. They liked them, but they were for NXT. However, the Hardys really weren't representing NXT. This is like NXT Fraxium versus the Hardys WWE. That's what it really was to these fans. And they're legends. So the fans can't keep praising them for this match. I'll be here all night how much I have to praise them. You had some cool dives on the outside of Fraxium. There was a couple suicide dives, and I think they hit a senton from the top, and then one of them hit a springboard moonsault onto the Hardys. That was a good spot early. They traded some near falls. There was several. It seemed like the Hardys hit multiple twist of fates, but Fraxium kept getting out. He had a series of near falls, and eventually, at the end, it finishes with Jeff Hardy hitting the Swanton Bomb onto Frazier, pinning him to retain the TNA Tag Team titles, and it's just a matter of time when we get to see them go against Fraxium for the NXT Tag Team Champions. Hopefully we get that at Stand and Deliver, and we're looking forward to that. Maybe it's a ladder match. Backstage, we go to Jada Parker, who is with Mickie James. Basically, it's just Mickie giving her advice. Nothing much to it. It was a fine segment. It's a fine way to get Mickie on the show, and I may as well just bring this up. Mickie, there were some stories this week, controversy that she's being booted off NXT, or not NXT, WWE LFG, which is their new reality tough enough type of show. And the controversy is that The Undertaker wanted to get Michelle McCool, his wife, a spot on the show as a coach, and they booted Mickie off in order to give it to Michelle McCool because they needed only one female coach. And I thought to myself, why? There's so many women there. There's many men there as well. I mean, why can't you have more than one female coach? Yeah, is what it is. Anyway, going back to this segment, Mickie was, she almost looked like Jada Parker's mom. And if you're a casual fan, you don't watch NXT, you just see Mickie James, you think, oh, that's her daughter, Jada Parker. Huh. It was a cool segment here. It was fine. I just think Jada's more of the type to, not really listen to advice as much. That's her character. But I didn't mind it. Then we had Roxanne Perez coming out for potentially her final match at NXT, and I wish they would have made a bigger deal of this because I think she deserves it. She's really been the face of the NXT Women's Division for the last year and a half, almost 2 years. Kind of wish they would have played it up more because this probably, in all likelihood, is her final match in NXT. And she came out in the Garden as she waited upon her match with Jordynne Grace. We go backstage to the family. They're arguing about a lack of respect they're receiving in NXT, particularly from the new faction of Sean Spears, and you had Tony D'Angelo arguing with Stax, who it seems like they're teasing tensions that the family is going to split. Kind of makes you think they're going to turn on Tony eventually, and eventually they announce a match where Spears' group is going to go up against Sean Spears' group in a 6-person tag team match. And this doesn't feature Tony D'Angelo, and it probably won't feature Sean Spears as well. So I thought that was fine. I kind of like the family, though. I really don't want to see them split up. But in some ways, it kind of reminds you of Chase U. I think WWE just sees this faction as something that's good for NXT. It's not going to work on the main roster, so they're probably going to get split up soon. Anyway, Jordynne Grace then comes out as Roxanne waited for her. And we have this matchup, Jordynne Grace taking on Roxanne Perez. I enjoyed this a lot, especially near the end where I thought it really, really picked up in the final minutes of the match. So Roxanne gets the heat on Jordynne early about working on her knee, and I thought this worked well because of the size difference. It's not necessarily a major height difference. Roxanne is shorter than everyone, but I mean Jordynne is so jacked, and Roxanne's pretty small, so like you can tell that the weight difference, Jordynne can rip her apart. So I kind of liked how they had to play up a knee injury for Jordynne, and that's what happened here. I thought Jordynne did a great job of selling it, and Roxanne did a very good job of being the heel and attacking the knee. Every time Jordynne really tried to do a move, anytime she got offense, she immediately sold the knee. There was a spot when she went on top rope, and I think we see her crumble a bit with her knee, and all the fans thought she slipped off the rope, but then I realized, no, she's doing a really good job of selling her knee, and that was the whole story of the match. Near the end of the match, there was a lot of good reversals. I like that. The fans were really getting into this late, and it wasn't like the other women's match where the fans were just going to be into everything when they started. Here they had to work a little bit more for them, but it really paid off because they were great at the end. Eventually, Jordynne got the win with her finisher. She beats Roxanne Perez, as we all knew she would. This is her second official match in NXT. Went better than her match last week with Cora Jade. But this match here in the Garden, at the Theater at the Garden, I apologize, Jordynne Grace's first official win in NXT, signed to a WWE contract. And that's when she beat Roxanne Perez, who seems like this is it for her in NXT. I wish they would have made a bigger deal of this. I know she's a heel. She's on the main roster. We see her every week anyways, but this is it for her in NXT most likely. Kind of wish they would have played it up more, and I think she deserves her flowers. I think they should have acknowledged it, and wouldn't mind if the fans thanked her at the end and chanted "Thank you, Roxanne," because I just want to say thank you, Roxanne Perez, for her work in NXT. I look forward to watching her on the main roster. Next, we had Moose and Obafemi heading to the ring for their matchup. And right when they had it there, I think it made it pretty obvious that we're going to get a title change in the other title match. That was pretty obvious how they did that. But Moose is heading to the ring. Fans boo Moose. They don't like Moose at all. It's kind of a situation where they don't really boo TNA talent, but they don't like Moose too much. Obafemi is walking backstage. He's heading to Gorilla for his match, and he just happens to run into a guy, some big 6'10" man, randomly standing in the halls of Madison Square Garden. Who could it be other than The Undertaker? Yeah, we see The Undertaker here, gets a big pop. Fans surprised to see him. I thought they were just going to show all the LFG coaches in the crowd because they didn't show Bully Ray here, and Booker, yeah, he's a coach, but he's on commentary. But yeah, I guess the only one we didn't see was Bubba Ray, not Bully Ray. But Undertaker is there. He's talking to Obafemi, and he's just giving him advice. So similar to the Mickey James segment, it was a little bit quicker. He's telling him to be you out there, and I thought it was fine. Good way for Undertaker to be on the show. Give it a rub to Obafemi. I think he gave it a rub a while ago, a year and a half ago. I think it was someone else that he put over when he was on NXT. But him going there, appearing on a show. He's part of LFG. I liked it. It was a nice part of the match, and really trying to put over Obafemi. He gets Taker's rub, and I like that he was talking to him. It's not like just when he appeared with Rhea Ripley and just put the hands up, their arms up in the air, him endorsing her. I like this a little bit better than that. Next, we had the NXT Championship match, Obafemi and Moose. So I liked how they started off earlier with Obafemi as the aggressor, because usually he's just a big power guy, but he's really going forward here, and he's going after Moose, and man, he hit him with a good chop to the chest, and it took Moose off his feet, and I thought that was a really good part here at Roadblock. That was a good visual there, seeing him just get knocked down by Obafemi. He had a lot of power moves here. Both guys are extremely strong. Obafemi is actually shorter than Moose. I don't know who's bigger. I think Femi's probably weighs more, but I don't weigh them, so I don't know. But it was the meat match. Did you call it the meat match? The big man match. It was the big power moves. A lot of power here. The best power move, I have to say, was when Obafemi picks up Moose, and it's a gorilla press slam. You think he's just going to throw him on the ground, on the ring. Instead, he throws him outside of the ring, right on the floor, and Moose lands right in between the mats. And there's a mat, and then there's a ring apron, and then there's an announce booth. There's like only a few inches. There's like no room here because the venue is pretty small. So the announce booth's right close there, and he just lands right in the spot. And I was thinking, it could have gotten pretty bad if he threw him like a couple inches further. Could have got worse, but that was a really good spot there. Then Moose gets back at him because then he hits a side slam onto Obafemi, and he goes right through the announce table, and that was a good spot. That was the only announce table spot we got on the show, but we got a few more table slots. We'll get to that later. I had to mention this. I don't know why the fans had to do this. There was a dueling John Cena chant in the middle of the match for no reason. It was a classic, let's go Cena, Cena sucks. I don't know why they had to do that there, but the fans did do that. That was the only thing really that I didn't like they did during the whole show. But here, to be honest, they weren't super into the match to start. The crowd, there were matches that they were just going to be into no matter what. The first match and the last match. However, here, similar to the first women's match with Jordan and Roxanne, Obafemi and Moose had to work for this crowd, but I thought it really paid off because near the end, they really got into it, and it really delivered. The last minutes here were great. Eventually, Moose gets the win with the fall from grace. He retains his NXT championship in a great matchup. Probably his best championship defense that he's had in NXT since he became champion. We go to an Instagram video with Zaria and Sol Ruka. It's announced that Sol's going to face Chelsea Green next week for the Women's United States Championship on NXT. Makes sense because she pinned her last week. Then we go backstage with Ava Raine, who's talking to Fatal Influence, and they were complaining previously with Ava at the press conference that they did. And they're very upset that Fallon's not getting her rematch. Then we see Ricky Saints, who comes in. He randomly intervenes. JC Jane tells him that he's not wanted before Fatal Influence leaves. Ricky then talks to Ava. He really wants a match with Ridge Holland next week. She gives it to him. All of a sudden, we see Ethan Page come into the picture, and he tells Ricky Saints that NXT does not like outsiders, which is ironic because he himself is an outsider. Then we see Ethan heading to the ring, and the camera follows him. First New York City street fight with Javon Evans. Javon Evans heads to the ring, and I really liked how they were both dressed because instead of wearing their traditional ring gear, they actually both wore street clothes. It felt like it's a street fight. I like that because it makes you think, yeah, these guys are in for a freaking fight here. In terms of weapons that were used, we saw chairs, steps, tables, trash cans. I think I got everything. Oh, there's a toolbox that was missed. If I missed something, just tell me in the comments, but I think that those were the weapons. To start, we see the chair being used. Ethan Page and Javon Evans both use the chairs. They set them up to sit on, and of course, that's where they slam them. Ethan Page took a really bad bump, actually, into one of the chairs that looked pretty sick. Javon Evans got a pretty cool bump where he's on the top rope, and Page grabs his arm, and he's in the ring, not on the ropes, but he drags him down, or like pulls him out from the top rope, and Javon Evans lands back first into 2 chairs that were set up, and that was a cool spot. Ethan Page then hit this really awesome running power slam onto Javon Evans as the table was set up into the corner, so they went right through the table. Another good spot, you had Javon Evans hit Ethan Page with some trash cans. Then there was the toolbox spot. Evans hit this really awesome dive also onto Ethan Page while he was on the outside, and when he hit him, they both crashed into the announce table. I'm not sure if they expected the table to break, but they both bounced off it, and it actually probably hurt worse that it didn't break. So when you get into the ring, there's another table set up on the outside in between the announce table and the apron, and Ethan Page is on the apron. Then Javon Evans hits a springboard cutter from the ropes, and he hits the cutter onto Page, and they both go through the table on the outside, which was probably the best spot of the whole show. That looked sick. That was awesome. Then actually that's when they hit the dive. There was a couple springboard moves by Javon Evans as well. Eventually it ends when Ethan Page has a chair over his head, and the chair is set up in a way where his head is in between it, the seat and the top, and then Javon goes from does a springboard cutter onto Ethan Page, and he hits him with the cutter while his chair, his head was trapped in the chair. Looked great, and it reminded me of a spot involving the Hardys, who are also on the show. Wouldn't be surprised if this was inspired by that at WrestleMania when Matt hit a twist of fate onto Jeff while his head was trapped into a chair. That's really what it reminded me of, and this looked way better than that, I'm not going to lie. And Javon Evans gets the win. After the match, however, he's attacked by the Retribution 2.0. That's what we're going to call him. I don't care about these losers. We get a video package of Shawn Spears, and originally I thought, is this Retribution? No, it's Shawn Spears' group. Same thing. So we had Sarah Scraper interviewing Eddie Thorpe in the crowd, and the crowd fucking hates Eddie Thorpe. Everyone hates this guy. They're chanting, I think they're chanting, "Fuck you, Eddie." I couldn't make it out, but they were just booing him like crazy. He's hated in front of the New York mob. Then Trick Williams appears. He attacks Eddie through the crowd. The fans are going crazy, chanting "Whoop that Trick," and people are saying Trick got a little bit stale. I agree. He's kind of cooled off of it, but having him feud with Eddie Thorpe will make the fans love him again because everyone hates Eddie Thorpe. And it's NXT Underground next week as Thorpe retreated. They hype up next week's show. They tell you all the matches. Looks really good. Not going to lie. Even though they're coming off such a big show that it's going to feel like a much smaller event next week back at the Performance Center. But the card looks good. Then we have Stephanie Vaquer and Julia both heading to the ring for their NXT Women's Championship match. And actually, not just the NXT Women's Championship, the NXT Women's North American Championship also defended in what's being dubbed the biggest women's match in the history of NXT. Winner takes all. The NXT Women's Champion Julia versus the NXT Women's North American Champion. I have to say that right. Stephanie Vaquer. Winner take all, non-unification match. It's basically whoever wins becomes a double champion. Stephanie Vaquer was out first, gets a huge pop. Fans are really into her. She was the fan favorite in the match. Then Julia comes out. She gets a good pop as well. Wasn't anything like there's no anti-Julia chance here. No one was against her. No one booed her, but they were just much more into Vaquer right now. And Vaquer's just been getting more over here. It kind of makes you think, I kind of wish they would have held off Julia being Roxanne a little bit longer. I think she could have had that big moment. Once she got her moment, and her title reign hasn't really been that much, and it was pretty short, only 2 months. I think the fans just got more into Vaquer, and she had more time to show her what she can do in the ring, and she has that really good spot with the head scissors that everyone loves, and I think she's just gotten more over. So they mentioned that they actually wrestled under Stardom. This is their second match together. It had the big fight feel right away, and I really liked that as well. You had them, they just had a crowd with them. So they didn't really have to do too much, but they worked their traditional matches. And Julia, the big thing was, is she hurt? It didn't look like it at all. It did not look like she was hurt at all. I wouldn't even notice it. Maybe she's such a good professional that I didn't notice, but I didn't see that. And there was a cool spot near the break where Julia reverses Stephanie Vaquer's scissor attack, and then she actually sees the fans booing, so I'll just do it myself. She actually does Stephanie's own attack. Fans love it, and that was during the break, so only us international viewers got to see that spot. Lucky us. But then Stephanie, lucky for us all actually, she actually does hit her move later, and the fans loved it. And I hate when Booker T does it because it's so annoying when he goes along with it, but the fans really like it a lot, and they even chanted Booker T after it, after the spot. I just thought watching this match, they're so much better than everyone else. And I like a lot of them in NXT. It's the best women's division ever in NXT. And that includes the 4 horsewomen in terms of the amount of depth. But man, these two are they blow everyone away. This is such a good match. A lot of kickouts near the end. Really got exciting. You had Julia kick out of Stephanie's SVB once. And then it looked like, is Julia going to win? She's going to hit her finish. And then Stephanie just gets out of it. After several near falls. Then Stephanie hits the SVB a second time. Then she hits it a third time. And she stacks up Julia. 1, 2, 3. Stephanie Vaquer, your new NXT Women's Champion. Julia's reign ends after just 2 months when she won the title at NXT New Year's Evil from Roxanne Perez in Los Angeles 2 months later at the theater at Madison Square Garden. Stephanie Vaquer is not only your NXT Women's North American Champion, she is now your NXT Women's Champion. Hopefully, this was the first of many matches between these two. I can't imagine that this is it. Stephanie's a double champ now. We'll see what she does, who she's going to feud with. I don't think it's going to be Julia. I don't know what's up with Julia if she's hurt. I can't imagine when they had her win the belt, they were only going to have her hold the belt for 2 months. Something's up. It's either an injury or some visa issues. She didn't look injured. Maybe she is. But you know what? I'm happy for Stephanie Vaquer. I cannot be more excited. What are we going to say? We're upset that she won the title. I'm thrilled she won the title. She's awesome. She's super over. She's been doing great on the main roster. Looking forward to seeing what she does next. I'm sure we'll get more matches with her and Julia. And we'll see what happens next. I would probably predict Fatal Influence takes Julia next week, and then Stephanie's going to feud with Fallon Henley. Maybe she works twice to stand and deliver. I don't know what's going to happen. I just have to say, overall, this was a fantastic show. This was one of the best NXT episodes ever. This was basically a PLE. Roadblock felt like a PLE tonight. In many ways, it felt like an old TakeOver show from several years ago. That was awesome. That's how good the show was. Fans were awesome. Really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot more than the show last night at Madison Square Garden. I thought this was a lot better, and I loved NXT tonight. So this was the last big event for NXT. Now we're all into Stand and Lever. We'll see what happens next in NXT, but for NXT Roadblock at the theater at Madison Square Garden, this show was great. One of my favorite NXT episodes ever. Can't say enough good things about this.